It's only on our
conclusions
our conclusions, our views, but they've never accused us of putting out fake information.
Well,
in fact, they're scared to
Touch
to
that.
even touch the information that we put out.
how is Director Ray still director of the FBI, Rick? This frustrates me to no end.
Oh, I think we're about 5, 6 weeks from the election. He's not going to get fired before the election. He's going to get fired right after the election. That's my gut feeling.
Why do they keep letting him open his mouth?
Okay, so once again, this is my criticism of President Trump. Why did you appoint him? Who whispered in your ear to appoint Christopher Wray? What has Christopher Wray done for you, Mr. President, since he's been there?
Except destroy you. That's the only thing he's done. Destroy your
He's
character.
covered up the FBI corruption.
Yes.
Peter Strzok, all of that. He's covered it up.
That's right.
Yes.
Has he gone after Jeffrey Epstein's sex scandal?
No, they have the tapes.
They
The
have
FBI
the
has the tapes.
They have Wiener's laptop. They have all of it, Rick. They could have done anything with it. Why is Director Ray still sitting in that chair? Why?
My question is, how did he get into the chair? Who whispered into Donald Trump's ear to appoint him?
And why is it so hard to get rid of an FBI director? I mean, we let James Comey sit in there for one day. I mean, it should have been out the very first day of the administration.
Well, he's not going to do it this close to the election.
Right, because of scandal.
Yeah, there's just not. But the election, once it's over, Christopher Wray's career as FBI director is over.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
I think so. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, I think, gave us some clues about the life expectancy of Christopher Wray's career at the FBI. This is number 15 from Daily Caller. Mark Meadows attacks FBI Director Christopher Wray over mail-in ballot debate. Now remember, Christopher Wray said, I have not seen any evidence of voter corruption. Who in law enforcement says, I've never seen any evidence of voter corruption? You've never been to Maryland. You've never been to Chicago in an election year. I can show you voter corruption. All right, so we've got
We have
CBS Morning News interviewed Mark Meadows, and he made some comments about the FBI director.
Hillary Clinton, 4 years out, still doesn't believe that she lost the election. She's also calling on Joe Biden to not concede the election. You know, what is that if we're looking 4 years later where they're saying that this president is not their president? Every candidate that runs believes that they're running the right election. I can tell you we're doing what it takes. We're out each and every day making our case to the American people. We believe he'll win on November 3rd, and with a free and fair election, I believe he'll win.
Right. As Ben Tracy pointed out in the piece, your own FBI director says he has seen no evidence of widespread voter fraud by mail or otherwise.
Well, with all due respect to Director Wray, he has a hard time finding emails in his own FBI, let alone figuring out whether there's any kind of voter fraud. This is a very different case. The rules are being changed. And so what I'm suggesting is perhaps he can drill down on the investigation that just started, others that we're seeing in North Carolina and other places where multiple ballots, duplicate ballots are being sent out. Perhaps he needs to get involved on the ground, and he would change his testimony on Capitol Hill.
Well, what is FBI Director Wray? What is he worried about? What is he telling the American people is the greatest domestic threat right now? We believe this? White supremacists. So apparently the ADL and the Southern Poverty Law Center got to him and said, hey, if you want to make sure your career continues after you leave the FBI, you got to say white supremacist one time.
Yes.
You got to say it in public, white supremacist. You got to say it.
And then you get a badge or something, a medal that you can put on your political resume.
Well, it means he submitted to them.
Oh, like a mask.
It's his time.
Yeah.
Yes. So he made the statement. This is Washington Monthly, number 16. White supremacists are invading American cities to incite a civil war. Now, this was a story by the Washington Monthly magazine. Now, just leave that up there for a second. The headline says white supremacist. When you think of that term, white supremacist, what do you think of? What's your picture? What do they want you to think of? White supremacists. Ku Klux Klan?
Yes.
The man in the hood.
People that hate black people, hate Latinos, hate everybody, think that white people are a superior race? Isn't that what a supremacist is?
Yes.
You think your race is superior.
Right.
Now look at the image that the Washington Monthly magazine used. Where is the white supremacist? It's a white guy in a pickup truck with a Trump flag.
That's a white supremacist.
So that means if you see a guy, a white man in a pickup truck with a Trump flag, that means he's a white supremacist.
You're immediately on edge.
This is the enemy. This
That's
is
propaganda.
Right. This is what they're telling us the enemy is out there. Now, how many white supremacists have been setting fires in cities? How many have been attacking courthouses in cities? How many have been creating riots? How many have
Burned churches.
How many have been stopped interstate highway traffic? How many?
Well,
Name them.
According to ADL, Southern Poverty Law Center, and the FBI director and others, white supremacists are the greatest threat to the well-being of the United States of America. And they're telling us that a white supremacist is a white male who lives in the country, drives a pickup truck, and has a Trump flag in the back of his pickup truck. That's a white supremacist, therefore that's a domestic terrorist. That, my friend, right there is propaganda. So, let's show you a video. This is from New Braunfels, Texas. So this is what a parade of white supremacists looks like in New Braunfels, Texas. Do they look like dangerous extremists?
This is like regular America.
Look like regular Americans.
I didn't see a single Molotov cocktail being thrown. I didn't see a single police officer having a rock thrown.
Well,
at
did
them.
they have a noose, and were they lynching a black person?
No nooses.
Did they have an Antifa black flag calling for revolution?
No, not at all. And
Was
yet
anybody talking
these
about
are the enemy?
Was anybody talking about burning the whole thing down? No, because those are the people that love this country. And so the people who love America have been demonized by the people who hate America.
Isn't that what a conquering army would do?
Yes,
They're the group they're trying to conquer and invade.
yes. And this has been going on for quite some time. I've been doing this program for 22 years. This has been underway the entire 22 years that I've been doing this program. But it's at the worst level I've seen in 22 years. The worst level now. It started decades ago. We started seeing the Southern Poverty Law Center and the ADL training police departments, beware of white men quoting the Constitution.
Well, and you think about
I'm
it,
serious.
the damage is
White
done.
guys in the
Yes.
Constitution.
The same, let me tell you, the same ADL that spent millions of dollars training 150,000 police officers in Israel to train them how to put their knee on your neck, the George Floyd move, the ADL did that. The Jewish ADL took 150,000 American police officers to Israel and trained them how to be brutal like the Israeli cops and soldiers are to the Palestinians. And then while they had them, they told them, you know, back in your country, you have your own version of Palestinians, white rednecks.
Yes. And he said exactly
They go
that.
to church and they wave the Constitution. We have them here in Palestine, in Israel. We call them Palestinians. And we have to be rough with them. We have to throw them on the ground. We have to put our knee on their neck. We have to shoot their kids in the head. And you got them back in your country. That's exactly what the ADL did. They demonized us by training police officers, telling police officers, Americans who quote the Constitution, who claim to be God-fearing, who they've actually said in the Southern Poverty Law Center and the ADL documents, they've actually said people who believe in Bible prophecy, that believe that we're in the end times. These are dangerous people. Okay, now you're seeing what this rotted fruit looks like and what it tastes like. This is the work of the ADL and the Southern Poverty Law Center and a whole host of other communist organizations that have been rotting and destroying the foundation of this country. And who is the target? God-fearing, Bible-believing Christian men and women in this country. That's who the target is.
Because
And it's not just, it has nothing to do with race, because they're going after the black attorney general of Kentucky. And why are they going after him? Because he's a Christian.
yes.
That's the only reason they're after him.
The only thing that is withholding the total anarchy taking place in this nation is the fact that there are still praying Christians left in this nation. That they're still seeking God, seeking God's
That's right.
face, and they're still standing up for what's right. How much longer will that last, though?
And the
Rick?
Second Amendment.
Well, I
As
said
well.
last night, we're literally down to months. We're down to months. No, November through January could decide the fate of this country. This country could collapse between November and January.
Now, the people that watch news, I quit watching news at night. I can't watch news at night. I just can't. I can't watch the commentators at night. I've got to do other things at night. But those that watch the news on a regular basis, you see the riots, you see the protests, you see everything going on. If you watch that and you use your head, that tells you who the enemy is. And yet, New York Times, FBI director warns of Russian interference and white supremacist violence. White supremacist
Seriously,
violence.
Mr. Ray, seriously. Get a life. White supremacist violence.
Please.
Wait a minute. Most Antifa members are white.
The term is weaponized. That's the thing here is that it's the term.
Yeah, he needs to change that. White Antifa communists.
Yes, that would be accurate because the majority of
Funded with Jewish money.
Yes.
But Mr. Ray can't say those words. I can.
Well, his organization did publish their investigation finally on the protocols of Elders of Zion.
But he didn't do it. Somebody in the FBI did it.
Director Ray is not the only one that is trying to throw white supremacists on the heap of the blame for violence that has not happened, but only by the left.
So now they got Chad Wolf singing.
Yes. Here's Chad Wolf, Department of Homeland Security.
I just lost a lot of respect for him.
This is the guy that we were rooting for to take control of things in Seattle and Portland.
Designate Antifa, a terrorist organization. That's what he floated.
White supremacists, top terrorist threats within U.S.
The top.
They're at the top, folks.
Look at all those white supremacists burning Seattle and Portland and Louisville and New York and Chicago. Look at them.
Yeah, they're at the top of the list, Rick.
Those white guys from Alabama in pickup trucks and Trump flags in their pickup truck. They're out there burning down the cities of America.
It's interesting about the detonation they tried to put here.
So what pressure did they put on Chad Wolf? Who pressured him? Who said, you've got to say the words white supremacist? You say it or we destroy your career. Because they got the FBI director to say it and they got the Homeland Security director to say it. He bowed his knee to them. He bowed his knee to them. Somebody put the pressure on him. I don't know who has that power. No, I do. I mean, we know what the hand is. But why the pressure on him? Why the pressure on Mr. Ray and Mr.
Because they have the power to actually prosecute and go after this group.
Are they afraid that they're getting ready?
The purge?
Is the left afraid that President Trump is ready to designate Antifa as a terrorist organization? Is somebody trying to flip the narrative now?
Flip the script beforehand.
It appears that way. Hey, I'm going to jump down to 21. This is we're going to show this to you again. This happened last week when former House Speaker Newt Gingrich was on Fox News, and he said George Soros. Oh my! He said George Soros is funding the terrorism in America, and the two Fox News hosts went into shock. I mean, actual fear. You watch this again. You're going to see fear. Fear came on their faces. Why were they afraid? Who has the ability to put fear, to strike fear into the hearts and minds of two news women on live television when you just say somebody's name? They went into shock, like something very bad was going to happen to them if they didn't shut up the mouth of the former Speaker of the House. Here's that episode if you didn't see it before.
Pro-criminal and overwhelmingly elected with George Soros' money, and they're a major cause of the violence we're seeing because they keep putting the violent criminals back on the street.
I'm not sure we need to bring George Soros into this. I was going to say you get the last word, Speaker.
He paid for it. I mean, why can't we discuss the fact that millions of dollars he spent?
I agree with Melissa. George Soros doesn't need to be a part of this conversation.
Okay. So it's verboten.
All right, we're good. Okay, we're going to move on.
It's verboten.
Forbidden.
Oh, and they attacked Newt Gingrich for using that word too, verboten.
Why?
So, because it was anti-Semitic.
It's
What?
The word is anti-Semitic.
Right.
How's it anti-Semitic?
Because it implied that there was a German superiority there, and that it was attacking the Jews.
What? I didn't hear that.
They were implying that a Holocaust term was being used against a Jewish trope. So,
Okay,
and the trope
no
being
worries.
George Soros. And so,
The Speaker of the House said it accurately. George Soros is funding the violence in American cities. But the two Fox News hosts went into shock and said, you can't say this. Why are you bringing his name up into this conversation? And Mr. Gingrich said, well, because he's paying for it. That's why. And they cut him
which
off.
is true.
They ended the interview. Done. That happened to me one time on Fox. It was on Fox Radio. Alan Combs. Okay, and Alan had interviewed me a number of times. And we'd actually gotten to the point we kind of had a friendship. And I pray and I hope that Alan Combs accepted Jesus Christ before he died. I certainly talked to him privately about Jesus Christ. And Alan was a good guy. He really was. He was a Jewish man that honestly I believe was, and he was a socialist. But there was something good in Alan's heart when I would talk to him. I felt there was a genuine searching for truth, okay? And I told Alan one time at the end of an interview, I said, I love you, Alan. And he shouted back, I don't want you to love me. But I was just trying to mess with him. I didn't want to argue and fight with him, but I kept that relationship. And he would call me, we'd do interviews, But there was one time, we were in Nashville. Mm-hmm. We were at the NRB convention.
Right.
so it was February, and Justice Scalia had been murdered, and he was murdered. They put a pillow over his head. I mean, the whole story. They murdered the Justice of the Supreme Court. And I said that on True News, and so Alan Colmes called me. I was on the floor of the NRB convention. I said, yes, I'll do a radio interview. And so we're a couple minutes. Now, this is supposed to be like a 15-minute interview.
Right.
And so like 3 minutes into the interview, I said, he said, now you said on True News that the justice was murdered. Do you believe that? Yes, I believe that. Well, who murdered him? I said, the same people that murdered John F. Kennedy. Done.
Foreboded.
Foreboding.